Hi guys, welcome back to the Sun and Show podcast. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of Love Island episode 16. So obviously in today's episode, the big thing that we were anticipating is the recoupling, specifically seeing if Leanne was going to go home. And then of course, the aftermath of Mike and Leanne breaking up. We kind of had an idea that Mike had moved on quite fast and was, trying to assess his options within the house. We were kind of anticipating whether he was going to be successful and whether, and also what Leanne was doing. Was she trying to graft with anyone? Was she going to try and build alliances? So obviously the beginning of the episode starts off with Luke T telling Rebecca that, he likes Shanice more than her and how he just wants to progress with Shanice and not Rebecca. Obviously, continuing on from the last episode, Rebecca is pissed off. She says that she feels that she's been mugged off, and honestly, I'm confused. She says that, it's been clear that Shanice and Luke T are getting on well, so she just thinks it's a bit muggy that, they haven't come up to her and told her, and that, Shanice is a hypocrite. In terms of Luke, I just kind of feel like he was going to tell you. I feel like, okay, if it was 3-4 days a week, but, 2 to 48 hours, it's still, I feel like that's still enough time. I still feel like that is a short period of time to make a decision. So I feel like even 48 days is a bit rushing it. 3 days, okay, 4 days, definitely. But even then, if you're saying that you can see that they're clearly getting on better, then with your eyes, with your eyeballs, you should have taken the hint. I don't know why him now telling you is going to make that better when it's very clear that you're pissed that he chose Shanice over you. So Rebecca is talking about how she feels that she's been mugged off, and I feel like if anyone has mugged you off, it's been yourself. I'm just really confused at this point. And then on top of that, she's telling Luke that she's pissed off. She's saying she doesn't want to be friends with him. Fair. And then on top of that, after Luke has told her that, he wants to be with Shanice, she's now telling Luke, well, Shanice is a hypocrite because, she was talking about girl code, she was talking about letting people know, and, she hasn't done that with me. And obviously she kind of relays that back to Shanice, but, she's not as explicit, she's quite vague. But in this case, she doesn't have a case. It's not even a bit of hypocrisy. This is just crazy now because it's a thing where Shanice literally has not done anything wrong in this situation, because it's not up to Shanice to tell Rebecca that Luke is into Shanice. It's up to Luke, because, what would it look like? Shanice going to tell Rebecca, oh, Luke said that he's into me, and then she goes run back to Luke and Luke says, and then Luke turning around and saying, no, I didn't say that, or saying, oh, he's still making his mind up, or just changing his mind. So it's definitely not up to Shanice at this point. It's definitely up to Luke to have told her, because it would be Luke's decision. And it's a thing where in the Shanice case, this is kind of a false equivalence, because in the Shanice case, Shanice was asking that you let me know that you had interest in Luke, period. At this point, Rebecca knows that Shanice has interest in him. So it's a false equivalency here. Honestly, I just feel like I just lost respect for Rebecca. She's not a true savage, and the behaviour this episode was just a bit pathetic. I feel like obviously she's a pageant queen. She strives off male attention. So when she doesn't get that male attention, her powers diminish and she starts malfunctioning and acting crazy. And that's what we've seen today. And also in the argument, did anyone catch, like, Shanice was kind of being petty there. I feel like she kind of caught the shade Rebecca was trying to throw, and she was like, oh, it's gone from one extreme to the other, basically saying, like, I was the one with no men and now it's you. I caught that shade. So then obviously next we kind of see Mike on his graft, and he's been getting busy this episode. Like I said, I wasn't surprised that he moved on so quickly. Yes, I think he liked Leanne, but he didn't love her, and I also suspected he was definitely sticking with her and being faithful to her as a game plan, because together they were a strong couple. He knew they'd have support from Black Twitter, so it was a safe bet to not play around being a committed relationship with Leanne. I feel like he tried to dabble in playing around in the beginning, but then decided he was going to be committed to Leanne. Obviously, we see Mike on the move, and his first option is Sophie. He says he's really attracted to her. I feel like obviously Sophie was the person who raised his heart rate the most. And I suspect that Sophie probably would have been his first choice. Sophie was comfortable with Connor. I feel like if Sophie showed Mike interest at the beginning, he probably would have picked her over Leanne. And even if he didn't, it would have been solely because, you know, he knows that him and Leanne would probably make a good couple. But I feel like there was always an attraction there. Like, you can be with someone and still be attracted to other people. So I feel like there was always that attraction there. So obviously, instantly, as I suspected, I didn't think it was going to work out. From what I have seen and from what I've heard from Sophie, I feel like Sophie picks her men by the paper bag test. If you don't meet the paper bag test, then she's probably not going to be into you. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from Sophie. So I didn't think she was going to pick Mike. Mike comes over to speak to her, and I feel like she senses straight away what this conversation is going to be like. So she instantly friend zones him. When he comes up to her to speak, she's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she said, you know, big bro Mike, something like that. So she's instantly letting him know, I think of you as a brother. I think of you as a friend. I felt like he definitely got that, but he thought he'd try his luck. You know, obviously he threw it out there. You know, obviously, and again, feeding into the friend zoning, she was like, you know, I'm sure someone else will come in for you. Basically, slightly letting him know that, you know, not even just the girl for you probably isn't in here, but I am not here for you either. And then obviously he's like, oh, you know, maybe the girl was already in here, obviously alluding to her. I guess he sensed her reaction as in like, I'm not interested. So he tries to backtrack and it's like, you know, I was only joking. You know, she says, oh no, you're not. But he was like, I'm only joking. And I feel like from that point, he knew he'd been friend zoned, and then he moved on to the next one. Obviously, the next one was Jess. And obviously, the next one was Jess. That wasn't a surprise there. I feel like he was interested in Jess. Obviously, back in the beginning, when he went back to Leanne, it was because Jess locked it off with him. I feel like when he told her, I still like Leanne, I'm more into Leanne right now, he was using that as a test to see whether Jess would step up her game for him. Obviously, that backfired, and then he decided to stick with Leanne. In terms of that relationship, he never really explicitly locked it off. It was a kind of thing where Jess locked it off, and then he just told Leanne that he was putting all his eggs in one basket when it didn't really go down that way. So I already knew he was going to Jess next. And then obviously, you know, he's saying, you know, he has feelings for her. So what do you know? So even though I feel like he did like Leanne, he always had other options in his head if they didn't work out. Obviously, Mike pulls Jess for a chat. You know, he says that he still has feelings for her, but, you know, Jess, she's kind of entertaining it, but she also just isn't stupid. This clearly looks opportunistic. Literally, your girl broke up with you yesterday. You claimed you were all about her, and now you're grafting to me. I can definitely understand why Jess has her reservations. Jess kind of leaves the door open because she says that, you know, Luke isn't her typical type. They don't have a lot in common, but she's trying to make it work right now, and she wants to see how that goes. Obviously, Luke is there seeing this. He's not impressed, but Mike has the decency to basically tell him, yeah, I'm looking to get to know your girl. I'm looking to graft her. And then obviously Luke and Jess have a chat, and, you know, Luke basically throws shades to Mike and basically says that, you know, it just seems to me that Mike is desperate and just clutching for scraps. So obviously I think Jess is definitely suspicious, but I feel like she kind of does like the attention a bit. So obviously another kind of thing that we see is kind of Shauna and Callum gossiping, and I feel like they've gotten very comfortable and they're kind of getting into the mum and dad role. I feel like there's always one couple that try and ascend into this mum and dad role and feel like they are the problem solvers and they're the spokespeople of the house. So obviously Callum is saying, you know, it doesn't feel right that Mike is now moving to Sophie because of Connor. Connor's barely even been gone, and honestly, I guess maybe him and Connor were close, but at the end of the day, Connor is gone, and Sophie hasn't gone with him. It's been a good day and a bit now. Sophie's staying, so it's a thing where who cares about Connor? Obviously, Mike wasn't that close with Connor, so why would he care? And it's just like, I don't understand how Connor can have a claim over someone when he's not even in the house. Maybe it's a, you know, bro code thing. You know, do you think it's a bit muggy that Mike is moving to Sophie now that Connor is gone, or do you feel like he's entitled to do that? I feel like maybe he'd have a point if it was real life, but this is a competition at the end of the day. The game is the game. And then on top of that, Shauna's saying, you know, it isn't right. Leanne and Sophie are good friends. And I'm just thinking, well, first off, him and Leanne are broken up. And two, I guess Leanne didn't really say how she broke it down to Mike, but Leanne disrespected Mike yesterday. She was violating yesterday. So it's the thing where if you did me dirty, like to the level that Leanne did Mike dirty, I wouldn't have any regard for your feelings, to be honest. And then on top of that, Shauna's saying, you know, it's weird because they're like brother and sister. Why are they like brother and sister? It was the thing where I don't really get that point, because I'm not sure if she was saying it as in like relationship, like, you know, that's just their dynamic, or whether it's an age thing. Because Sophie and Leanne are 1 year apart, so I don't really know what she's getting at here. And then obviously Callum made a comment saying basically like, you know, they don't understand why Mike is running around grafting these girls when he just broke up with Leanne and him and Leanne had something good going. Well, him and Leanne were only together for 2 weeks and they broke up. And Leanne did him very dirty. So it's a thing where I personally don't get it, because if I was really feeling someone for 2 weeks and then they disrespected me to the level that Leanne disrespected me, the feelings would be gone by the next day. I don't know, but that's just me. My feelings would be gone the next day. So I can definitely understand how Mike moved on so quickly. But what do you guys think? Do you think they have a point there? Is Mike moving way too quickly or not? Obviously, I feel like when you go into... Everyone has a game plan in that house, and it's the elephant in the room, and, you know, no one really wants to call out each other's game. But at the end of the day, it's a game, you know? It's not single. It's not break up with someone and give it time and give it time to get over your feelings island. It is... The game is the game. You need to couple up with someone, and that's how it is. And, you know, Mike is smart because, you know, the evening after they get a text, it could have been either way. It could have been boys' pick. It could have been girls' pick. And Mike needs to have that insurance. And you see how Mike is being smart and thinking about his game and his progression in the game. Leanne is out here sunbathing. Leanne gets a little bit pissed off when she sees Mike and Jess speaking to each other because they were both in the garden. She's like, you know, why do they have to do it in front of her? And I was thinking, that would be a point if she actually liked the boy. She told this boy that she didn't like him and that she was faking it and she was trying to make it bang. But now you don't want to see him talking to other people. If you are so disgusted by him, surely it should be easy for you to mind your business. I just don't understand. And then he's saying, you know, doesn't he have any class? And again, where was this class that you were speaking of yesterday, babe? So then obviously Mike senses that Leanne is pressed. So he goes up and, you know, she's saying, you know, it's disrespectful that you're doing this in front of me. And at first he was kind of just like, well, you know, I thought me and you were over, so I didn't think it'd be that big of an issue. Like, if you're saying that you are faking your feelings for me, basically. And then, you know, he apologized. And then after he goes off, she was basically saying like, oh, why is he coming up to me? He's so obsessed with me. But I'm like, baby, you literally had a stank face on. Like, of course he was going to come up to you with your obvious stank face. So yeah, again, you know, I can respect Mike's conduct. Again, he didn't even need to go up to her. If that was me, I wouldn't have even I would have been rubbing it in. You disgrace my name and then you want me to have consideration for your feelings. I would have pulled Jess to the bed next to Leanne and started grafting. So obviously we get our first kind of hideaway snippet, and it's Paige and Finn in the hideaway. Obviously they have a good time. But the tea is, when the text came through, everyone said Shauna and Callum should go in the hideaway. Why did Callum pipe up so quick and say it should be Finn and Paige to go in the hideaway? He was saying this shit about, oh, Finley snores so loud, it would give us a break. And I call bullshit, because if you really like somebody, you know, if people are saying you should go in the hideaway together, if you guys should have privacy together, that would be a no-brainer. So that leads me to believe that Callum does not like Shauna. He's gone off Shauna because he doesn't even want to be alone in a room with her. You know, in an environment where they're sharing a room with 5 other couples is just mad to me. And I'm even surprised that Shauna didn't pop off and didn't catch that insult. Then he wants to be talking about how can Mike say that he really likes Leanne and then be moving on the next day. How can people nominate you to go in the hideaway with this woman that you like so much and you say no? Callum. He's another one that can't act to save his life. And then obviously Rebecca moves on to Wallace. She secures that quick and she was smart. Again, I'm not really sure why Sophie and Leanne were not even seeing what this new guy was saying when it was clear that Luke T had Shanice's heart. Again, it's a bit stupid, a bit too much relaxation going on. But yeah, Rebecca was smart. She copped that. Wallace is boring as hell. I think Rebecca definitely finds Wallace boring as hell. But she was like, you know what, yeah? I'm not going this week, so we've just got to firm this, innit? But yeah, this Wallace guy is very boring. Like, it wasn't even a triangle this episode. Like, it hardly showed him. He's literally just like a prop. So obviously the text comes through about the recoupling / dumping, and Sophie and Leanne are tense. And she looks down straight away and she knows that she's in the hot seat. I can already feel the regrets. So Sophie is in the confessional and she's not looking happy. She does not want to go. So it's very clear to me that she is already over Connor. Leanne and Sophie, they know they are the ones that are at risk, and they sit down with Naz and Mike. Leanne has too much pride. She doesn't want to beg Mike. She's saying, like basically saying, I don't want you to feel like you have to pick me, like you have no obligations. Because she knew that's what Mike wanted. She knew that Mike wanted her to beg and she didn't want to do that. Me, I would be begging. Babe. I wouldn't even have told Mike I didn't like him. I would have broken up with Mike after the 25k was in my hand. Hell, I might have even stole the whole 50k and then broken up with Mike. That's when I would have told Mike my true feelings. But since she already gone done it, that was the opportunity to stop begging. Crying even. Because at this point, Mike wasn't really in a couple. He had tried to graft, but nothing stuck. So she could have said something like, you know what, I don't have feelings for you, but I care for you a lot. And, right now you're not in a couple with anyone else. There's no one else in here right now. Let's just continue this journey together as friends. I'm really sorry for what I said yesterday. I don't want there to be any bad feelings. I've just been feeling so bad about what I said yesterday. Anything, babe. Anything. But Leanne didn't want to do it. And I feel like after he went away, she instantly regretted. She was like, oh. And because at first she was like, obviously, if I go, I go. But then obviously when he went away, she was like, oh, I want to stay kind of thing. Sophie, she's kind of weighing up her options. Callum is being quite vocal. He's basically saying maybe Naz should couple up with Sophie to save her. And then Mike can couple up with Leanne. And then I think maybe that would have put Rebecca in the hot seat or somebody else in the hot seat. Honestly, Callum's plan was quite stupid. It was stupid and it was selfish to even suggest that to Naz, especially when he's found someone, whether it's fake or not, but he's found someone to click with, He's found someone that will willingly cuddle with him and willingly kiss him, So when Callum was piping up with that suggestion so bold-facedly, I was just like, Callum, I think I preferred it when you weren't speaking. Sophie's not really saying anything in that situation. She's just kind of letting Callum doing the talking. But Sophie was determined. See, Leanne, she had too much pride. She didn't want to beg. She's determined. She's going up to Mike and she's giving him those eyes. She's like, look, I don't want to go home, period. So what'd it do? That's why I respect Sophie. She was like, you think I'm going home, disgracing my sister. I'm not going home. Are you dumb? I don't want to go back to I will be so vexed if you send me back to Big Teeth. At that point, when Sophie, because she was very firm with Mike, she was giving him those eyes, and I just felt like Sophie secured it. And Sophie is smart. Sophie's got that business energy because Sophie wants to be making them racks when she comes out. Sophie is smart. She knows what she has to do to advance in this game, and she's willing to, and she's not afraid to do it. Leanne definitely could have borrowed some of Sophie's energy, but the pride thing, you know what? I'm somebody who has a lot of pride. If this is a thing in real life where there's no money on the line, I definitely would have had my pride up. But when there is money to be made, babe, I will have no shame. So obviously, the recoupling was as follows. Finn picks Paige, no surprise there. Luke T is next, which is quite interesting. It's interesting that they didn't put Wallace before him. Obviously, I feel like at this point, Wallace knew what was up. He knew that Shanice liked Luke T more. But I feel like the reason why they put Luke T first is to make sure that there was no curveballs and that it all went straight and narrow, because it's obviously very clear that the producers favour Shanice. So obviously her now being with Luke T, somebody that really likes her, is a good storyline. They know she's getting a lot of support, so it's a good storyline to continue. And in terms of Shanice and Wallace in a couple, nobody wants to really see Wallace really on their screen time, so they had to lock that off. Next it was Callum. Obviously he picked Shauna. Then it was Luke M, which was quite interesting. I personally feel like they should have put Mike, and then it would have been interesting, and I feel like it would have made things a bit spicier if Mike stole Jess from Luke M. But obviously I can obviously see why they didn't do that, because they wanted him to be the one to send Leanne home. But either way, I still feel like Leanne probably still would have been sent home, regardless of whether Mike picked Jess or whether it was Luke M that picked Jess. And then obviously next is Wallace, who we know is picking Rebecca. I just feel like collectively they're probably not going to get enough screen time, honestly. They can be the next couple to go. I don't care about any of them. Rebecca, she lost my respect. And Wallace is boring. And obviously Naz picks Demi, no surprise there. And then it was Mike. And at that moment, I knew he was picking Sophie. Mike gave Leanne the opportunity to cry and beg. She didn't want to cry, she didn't want to beg. So it's a thing where you actually did Mike so dirty. And even today, the day, he tried to extend an olive branch and you were being so cold. The level of disrespect. And now look, you have him here single, wondering about, he's trying to secure Jess. Jess is telling him she doesn't want to hear it. You've put him in this situation. Why would he want to save you? But, I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure what he was going to do, because I feel like at that point he knew the power was in his hands. He was either going to get it's karma, he sent Leanne home, or he's going to get I'm glad he saved Leanne, black solidarity. It could have gone either way. In terms of who I wanted him to save, I wanted him to save Sophie. I've been rooting for Leanne, but my rooting really stopped with yesterday's episode. I was just very disappointed, and this whole episode, she hasn't been playing the game well. I've had so many comments saying, Leanne isn't meant for the show. She doesn't know how to play the game. And this episode just proved that she didn't know how to play the game. She wasn't grafting anyone. She wasn't trying to build any friendship with anyone. I feel like she generally thought that they were going to do her like Shanice. They were going to bring her in a new guy just for her, and she was going to get her happy ever after. Because obviously they brought in this Luke T guy. He said that he was into Leanne, but it's clear it was all gas to get in the show, because obviously they probably have all of these people in the outhouses that they're going to bring in. So, they're standing together, they're huddled, and I can already tell that Leanne is just feeling regret. She's just thinking to herself, she should have, waited until after this recoupling to break up with him. And then obviously he says Sophie's name. And Leanne just looks down and she looks disappointed. But it's just like, babe, what did you expect? What did you expect? The level of disrespect. You can't expect someone to have mercy on you. So obviously in the first look, we see that Leanne is not happy. She's saying, Mike couldn't wait to get rid of her. And I'm just like, he's saying, he had to make a decision. It wasn't about getting rid of her. And obviously Leanne is angry. I can understand the anger. She palmed this guy off and then he sent her home. But, you reap what you sow. Like, you should have just kept it to yourself until you were in a safe position. You can't be making risky decisions with no insurance. I honestly don't think how she thought she was going to survive this. I thought that, yesterday she'd made this decision and she was going to be at peace if she was sent home. But it's obviously clear that she thought maybe Mike was going to save her. But that is just delusion. And let me tell you, if I was Mike, I wouldn't have even done that whole speech. I would have just said, I'm picking Sophie. That's that. None of this whole speech. I'm sending you home. You come here, disrespect me, and then you want me to save you? Joker. And then an interesting development, we see Shauna and Sophie arguing. And obviously, Shauna was saying, in the episode, she doesn't think it's right that Naz should pick, should be told to pick Sophie over Demi. And yeah, that was right. But from what I've seen, it was Callum piping up about that. Sophie was just standing there. At the end of the day, Sophie needs to do whatever she needs to do to stay in the game. Whether that is begging Mike, who's single, or whether that is begging Naz for a friendship couple. That's what Naz was doing in the last recoupling. He was saying, he was telling Jess, why would you want to explore something with Luke that might not work out when you can have the power of friendship? Is that not what Naz was saying at the last recoupling? She never checked him on that. So why is she piping up now? Even after Mike chose Sophie. So I don't understand why she's piping up now. And then on top of that, you're saying, if Naz had picked Sophie instead of Demi and Demi went home, she would have been upset. Is that even necessary? It's a thing where that didn't even happen, so why are you even bringing it up? I just feel like Shauna is annoying, Callum is annoying. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like Shauna has a point there, or she's just chatting shit? People are saying that Shauna is the realest person in the villa. Like, I've already said my piece on Shauna. People are saying that, Leanne has lost Black Twitter's support. People are saying that Shauna was right for picking out Sophie's fake and manipulative behaviour. I don't know. Did I see things differently? Did Sophie explicitly tell Naz not to pick Demi? Because I feel like there's nothing wrong with Sophie saying, you should pick me. And I just feel like nobody was saying this when Naz was saying friendship to Jess instead of her exploring things with Luke M. So yeah, I need some clarification, but I don't feel like Sophie was in the wrong here. The game is the game. You gotta do what you gotta do to stay in the game. People are happy that Leanne has left. People are speculating that Leanne's family will be upset. People are speculating that Leanne is going to be jumping on a podcast soon. Honestly, I don't blame her. This whole week, she needs to be getting as much clout as she can and making as much coin as she can, because in about a week or so, people are going to start to forget her, especially if they fly in a new black babe. People are saying if Leanne had spoken to Mike in a different way, in a level-headed way, and wasn't rude to Mike, he probably would have saved her. And I think that is true. I feel like Mike gave her multiple opportunities in this episode to redeem herself, and she didn't, and that's what sent her home. So yeah, pretty much the TL was all about Leanne and Sophie. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Let me know what you thought of this podcast. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to put your notification on so you'll know when the next podcast is dropping. Till next time, guys. Bye.